Hi there, my name is John Threadgold. I'm a psychotherapist and drugs counsellor, and I'm doing a series of videos on how to conquer the binge drinking habit. Now, the first thing to say is that this is not a substitute for getting professional help, and you can get professional help in the United Kingdom from a variety of agencies, including things like Alcoholics Anonymous. There are local agencies, Equinox, for example, has got quite a few centres around the country. You can also get help from the National Health Service at the moment, at least. But you can also, of course, see a private therapist like myself. So the first thing then about binge drinking is, do you think you have a problem? Now, if you don't think that you have a problem, then no amount of these videos is actually going to convince you otherwise. If you don't want help, then clearly, or you don't think you have a problem, then you're not going to do anything. But supposing you're on that stage where you think, well, actually, I think I might have a problem. My liver and kidneys are being damaged by my regular binge drinking episodes. I'm using money that I haven't really got. I don't have. If I'm a family man, maybe I don't have time for my family. If I'm a woman, I've got kids and they're not looking after them properly when I go binge drinking. So you may be at that contemplation stage of thinking, well, maybe I've got a problem. Now, if you're there, then basically this series of videos is going to give you some very practical self-help tips, and they're not instead of seeking professional help, but they're something in addition to it. Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to suggest, if you think you might have a problem, is to do something called a PMI analysis. Now, P stands for the positive things about the binge drinking, things you like. And quite frankly, if there wasn't something that you liked about it, then you wouldn't be doing it. M stands for the minus things, and I stands for the interesting things that spring out from the PMI, from the P and the M, the positive and the minus. Let me give you an example of how it would work. Positive. I have a great time out with my friends. Minus, I might get into fights or I have unprotected sex, so there's quite a risk attached to it. The interesting thing is, could I have a really great time out with my friends without binge drinking, without going to excess? P is for positive. Positive. I actually got a whole load of emotional problems, and when I'm binge drinking, I feel free of them. M for minus. The minus thing is, well, when I'm sober, those problems remain knocking at the door, and they seem to be getting worse. The interesting thing is, can I cut down on the binge drinking? Can I do some harm minimisation? And can I actually get some help to actually face those problems rather than self-medicating them? Yeah. So P, positive. I really do get to socialise quite a lot with some friends. M is from the minus points. Minus points is it's actually costing a lot of money, and my family has been affected. Interesting point is, can I socialise and spend less? Can I do something else other than that? So PMI analysis gives you the positives, it gives you the minus points, it gives you the interesting points. And once you've done a PMI analysis, then maybe just sense inside and say, do I want to take some more action on this? Now, at each stage, when I'm going to make suggestions, I'm also going to be putting them up on this video as well, so that you can stop the video and you can take them if you want to copy them. So I'm now going to do that. having done the PMI analysis, you may be thinking, okay, I've done the PMI analysis. The minus points are definitely outweighing the positives. There's lots of interesting questions that have been raised. What then is my next step? Well, there's two things that I'm going to explore in this video. The first one is to do an experiencing diary. What I mean by this is that you do a diary of how you're feeling leading up to the binge drinking. You do a diary involving how much you actually drink. And the third thing is then looking at basically, how you cope with the aftermath of the binge drinking. Now, the idea of this drinks diary is there's a number of ideas. Firstly, you begin to find out what the triggers are to your binge drinking, and you can find out a lot of things through doing a basic diary. You can look at, for example, who you binge drink with. Is it, for example, that you meet someone and you go and binge drink? Is it that that you're feeling low and you binge drink? Is it that you're beginning to feel angry or depressed and you binge drink? What are the feelings, emotions and thoughts leading up to the binge drinking? Who is the binge drinking actually with? Who is it actually with? Is there a possibility maybe that do you binge drink and the others drink moderately? Or is it that you're part of a social group of binge drinking? And then the third thing is, how do you deal with it? Now, quite often, and this diary can be really important, is that people then beat themselves up and then they vow not to binge drink again. Did you do that? Now, if beating yourself up, oh, I'm so terrible, look what I've done, and self-persecution, if that really worked, then of course you wouldn't be binge drinking anymore. So one of the ideas is, instead of beating yourself up, is to do the diary and to treat it with curiosity, to treat it as a learning opportunity. What does it trigger? What triggers it? Who am I binge drinking with? Do I need to change my social circle? How much am I drinking, and how do I deal with it afterwards? And can we begin to change that? If you always do what you've always done, then you'll always get what you've always got. But if you begin to change things, albeit quite slowly, you begin to think differently, you begin to look at it differently, then those changes can take place. So I'm just going to put up on the video some of the basics of the experience of diary. So far then, if you're following through the tips on this video, you will have done a PMI analysis, looking at the positive, the minus and the interesting points about your binge drinking, and you'll have done a diary looking at how you are before you did binge drink, who you're with, what your moods are, what your thoughts are, and also looking at how much you drink and looking at how you react afterwards. So far then you will have got quite a lot of information, and the next step then is to decide what to do about it. Now the third thing that I'm going to talk about here is a stepping stone, if you like, to not drinking, and that's about harm minimisation. And again, this is another sort of cognitive step that you can take. Harm minimisation is basically for people who say, well, I'm not yet in a position to stop my binge drinking immediately, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and reduce it and I'm actually going to try and minimise the harm that I do. So there's three things to harm minimisation really. Firstly, what do I actually do? Secondly, what is the risk involved? And then thirdly, how can I practically minimise that risk? Let me go and again give you a couple of examples of how harm minimisation works. If, for example, somebody drinks 5 pints of extra strong lager, that's what they do. The risk is that it will kill off brain cells, that it will damage liver, that it will damage your kidneys, and it will give you a really horrible hangover. So, as well as spending quite a lot of money. The harm minimisation would be, for example, to switch to lower strength lager. So you have the same amount of lager, but you minimise the harm by switching to lower alcohol lager. Another harm minimisation technique is to be able to say, okay, at the moment I'm drinking, say, 5 pints of extra strong lager. I've reduced the alcohol content, but now I actually want to reduce the amount I drink. So if I know that I'm going to drink, then what I'm intending to do is to, say, drink a couple of pints of water so that the stomach is full. Actually have a good meal before I actually drink. And then with a full stomach and with water, we then start off, for example, on soft drinks rather than alcoholic drinks, and then we reduce the number of pints that we have because the stomach is full, and it's actually got less room for to actually fit it in. So that's another harm minimisation technique. The other thing is, from the diary, you can spot the vulnerable points at which you're likely to sort of have alcohol. So, for example, if you go out to the pub at a certain time, you might want to do harm minimisation by actually arriving later at the pub, starting on soft drinks, having a couple of pints of lime and soda, say, and then moving on to lower alcohol drinks than you normally would. So harm minimisation requires, you can utilise the PMI analysis, you can utilise the diary, and you can actually plan your drinking and specifically plan to reduce the amount of harm that you do. Let me give you one last example of harm minimisation. What do I do? I actually go to the pub by the car. What's the danger? The danger is that I'll be tempted after drinking to actually drive it back. I could kill someone, I could kill myself, I could lose my licence. Harm minimisation will be using public transport rather than the car. So harm minimisation, you can work it out for yourself. And I'm just going to post up a little bit about harm minimisation just to remind you of the key facts. Okay, so those are three tips, self-help tips to help you begin the process of basically tackling your binge drinking habit. And I'm just going to summarise what we've looked at so far. The first thing is a PMI analysis, the positive, the minus and the interesting points about your binge drinking. The second thing is a diary. How are you feeling, what are you thinking, how are you feeling, what are your circumstances before you binge drink, what happens during the binge drink, how much alcohol do you have, and how do you cope with it afterwards. And then the third part of the strategy is harm minimisation. What do I do now? What is the risk involved? and how do I minimise that risk by changing my behaviour. Now, quite clearly, this strategy, a lot of people will be saying, well, that's all very well, but I want to go further. How do I actually begin to not just reduce my binge drinking, but to stop the binge drinking? And that's what my second video is going to be looking at. Practical tips and techniques for actually dealing with the cravings, the craving to actually binge drink. So please, if you found this helpful, that's brilliant. Please do look at my next video. You can get more information about the talk of counselling I offer from my website, which I'm going to post up on the next part of the video.